Hi YouTube, I have a Ford Excursion. It's a 2000 and I just took the front wheel off. I was having some vibrations for some reason. I thought it was part of my brake hanging up with me yesterday, so after work this afternoon I decided to pull it off, inspect it, and put it back together. I'll show you real quick the tools that I used. I just put it back together, as you can see, and I'll walk over here and kind of give you an idea on what I was up against. Like I said, for some reason once I get to 40 miles an hour, it started giving me a pretty bad vibration, and it felt to me like maybe it was part brake, or it even felt like a tire was starting to come loose. I couldn't go over 40 miles an hour, 42, 43, 44, everything was shaking in the truck. So I babied it home, got here, drove 35 miles an hour. It seemed to be okay, but I could still feel the wheel pulling a little bit to the right. So like I said, jacked it up, put a another jack, a backup support jack stand on this leaf spring right there, and that way it gives you a little extra protection if you need it. This center cap is just a plastic cap with some springs that are form fitted to the lug nuts underneath. So what I did is I had a little Allen key, and there's a groove right there, and I just stuck it in there, and there's another one underneath. And I did that 2 or 3 times to kind of pried it right off. Right in my hand she came, exposing the lug nuts. The lug nuts are 13/16 is what I used. And I put it on this torque wrench right here. And you can use, a breaker bar or whatever you have handy. I think you can use a 22 millimeter as well. Anyway, after a minute, took the lugs off. Very easy to come off. They got a built-in washer, at least they do on this model. And set the tire aside, and at that point they gave me a real good shot at the rotor. And then back here I'll show you the caliper. Don't know if you can make that out or not, but anyway, Ford did a nice job. The brake caliper has a bolt on the top and one on the bottom, and you've got to come in from the back with a wrench, but it's easy to get to. Like I said, I took it off with this little wrench here, and it's was a 13, or I'm sorry, this was 11/16, and like I say, the bolts came right out. The caliper was snug. I was trying to wiggle it off, but it wouldn't come off. It'd come about halfway off, and it was hanging up. So I used this mallet, tapped it a few times, and like I say, it came apart. I was pretty surprised. It just came off in my hand. I was able to put it on top of the rotor and look at the brake pads. The brake pads were in good shape, so I don't have any issues there. My piston in the caliper, I was thinking maybe it got some corrosion in there, or maybe it's damaged some way or another. So what I did is I just used this C-clamp, and I put it on the caliper with this side here against the back of the caliper, and then I screwed this part into the piston. And putting the piston inside the caliper, it's probably the easiest thing to do. Trying to press it in any other way is almost impossible. So if you can use this, it'll save you a lot of grief. But I've got 2 pistons in this caliper right here in this vehicle. It's, like I said, 2000 Ford Excursion, 4-wheel drive, and both pistons went in. They came out, they went in, everything looked great, so I put it back together. I put the tire and rim back on the front end here. One thing I learned today was these are to be torqued down at 150 pounds. So luckily enough, this torque wrench goes right up to 150. And so obviously I tried to put the bolts or the lug nuts on 180 degrees apart from one another to make it as true as possible. And one side note, if you have an Excursion and it's 2001 or newer, you need to torque a wrench that goes up to 160 to 165 pounds. So anyway, for some reason it seems like the 2000s are 150, the newer ones are a little bit more. And anyway, once the tire and wheel was on, I pressed the cap on and took it for a ride. Everything worked out well. Hope it helps a little bit. Take care.